So let's continue with last week's video about pricing. Now, if you didn't check out last week's video, I will link it above. I spoke about 2 strategies that you can use to price your medical billing services. It was percentage and hourly. Today, we're going to be talking about per claim and flat rates. Also, if you have not checked out my other videos about pricing, where I talk about pricing mistakes and how to charge, I will also link those above as well. All of these videos go hand in hand. There's some information or different information in each of these videos, so make sure you check all of them out. Now, before I jump into the last 2 pricing strategies that I have for you, I want you to know that you can mix and match these pricing strategies. You don't have to just use one for all your providers. You can use 2 for one provider. For example, if you want to charge a percentage as well as a flat rate minimum, you can do that. So there are different ways that you can do this. You don't have to stick to one. And sometimes, depending on the client or the provider that you have to do that. Depending on the services that you provide for them, you may have to do that. So when you're keeping in mind what pricing strategy you're using, think about your location, the services you're going to provide, the specialty that your provider is in, how many providers are within that particular practice, what's the volume. All of these things matter. Make sure you do your due diligence in finding out this information from your client before you give them an actual price. So let's start off with the first strategy that we're going to be talking about, and that's per claim. With per claim, it is exactly how it sounds, how many claims you send out for the provider each month or every 2 weeks, however often you get paid. So if you charge a provider $5 a claim and you send out 200 claims within that month, then you will get paid $1,000. Now, the average cost of per claim pricing is between like $4 or $3 and $10. Again, this is just an average. It depends on where you're located and what you can afford to charge, pretty much. So if you are charging $5 an hour, like I used in my example, and you only send out 10 claims in the month, then you're going to get paid $50. It is, I think. Right? So you're going to get paid $50. So you just need to keep in mind the volume that you're going to be sending out or how much claims that the provider sends out each month, so you can kind of figure out how much you're going to get paid. So the pros of per claim pricing is that if you have a provider that has a big volume of claims that go out each month, then it can be very profitable. It is also easy to track. So if you are, trying to figure out how much you need to charge at the end of the month, you just got to figure out how many claims you sent out, and it's an easy way to charge. And so in the flip side of that, the cons of charging per claim is the fact that I feel like you're not getting paid for everything that you're doing. So again, you're getting paid for sending out the claims. But what happens when you need to fix a claim, when you need to, fix a denial, when a claim is not paid, when you have to check on credentialing, when you have to check on the patient's eligibility? All of those things that you have to do on the back end of sending out the claims, are you technically getting paid for those? I don't necessarily feel that you are. So I feel like you're just getting paid to, review the claim, make sure it's a clean claim, send out the claim, but you're not getting paid for your back end work that you usually may have to do. Also, I don't think it's too ideal for when you have a scenario where the claims are very complex claims that have, a lot of lines, modifiers, a lot of things that need to go along with that claim. I just kind of feel that you may not be getting paid what you should be getting paid. Now, again, per claim for me is the least favorite, so I might not have the best pros for it. And as far as the cons, I'm kind of always on the con side because I just really don't like per claim in general. My story with per claim charging is that I was paid per claim, but it was more of a tiered system. So it wasn't like I explained in this example where I was getting paid per claim that I sent out. So if I sent out 100 claims and I charged $5, and I got paid that 100 times the $5, $500. It wasn't like that. I was getting paid something like, if I sent out between 0 and 100 claims, I got paid $200. If I sent out between 200 and 300 claims, I got paid $400, whatever. And I always say this in my videos, that I wish I remembered what it was, but I guess because I didn't like it that much, I really don't remember. But I do remember that it was done in tiers. And I also remember having a lot of back end work to do for the provider that felt like very overwhelming, felt like I was doing so much throughout the month, but then at the end of the month I would only get paid $200 because I sent out 200 claims, or I sent out 100 claims. So I didn't really like that per claim thing, and I don't really do it right now either. But when I would suggest that you do per claim is if you are, number one, billing for a provider that maybe just wants you to send out claims. So if the provider is not looking for you to do the follow-up work afterwards, and they just want you to send out the claims, make sure that the claims are flowing, being sent out, then I could say you can charge per claim. Or they want you to send out the claims, and they also may want you to send out rejections as well. So rejections are when you send out the claim and it gets rejected, maybe at the clearinghouse or at the insurance company just before it actually is processed, and maybe they want you to do that. So if you're just basically doing kind of like the front end of the medical billing portion of it, then you may be able to charge per claim, and that would be good enough. But that's the only time that I would suggest that you charge per claim. Now, don't forget to check out my Medical Billing Maven shop here on YouTube. If you ever see me wearing any of the shirts, using any of the cups, mugs, anything that you're interested in and you want to purchase, you can just click on the shop link that is below. I actually have it in the description box as well. And you can go on my channel and click on the shop tab and shop right here through YouTube. And also, if you want to set up your remote one-on-one with me where we can talk about pricing, I know I'm talking about pricing for the last couple of videos, but you still might have questions about pricing, because like I said before, pricing is not the easiest thing to do. Then make sure you schedule your remote one-on-one with me. There are 45 minutes. You can ask me your personal questions, personalized specifically to you and what you should charge for your medical billing services, or any other questions that you might have. And the last pricing strategy that I'm going to be talking about is flat rate pricing. And in flat rate pricing, it sounds like just what it is, that you get a flat amount, a specific amount each month, regardless of how little or how much you do within that month. And the average for flat rate pricing is a big average, so it can be as low as $1,000 or as high as $10,000. And it all depends on just what's being done. So for example, if you have a small private practice with one provider, and maybe it's a non-surgical provider, meaning mental health, physical therapy, something like that, you may just charge them $1,500 a month every month. So that would be on the lower end of it. But if you have a larger provider or a larger practice who has maybe 2 to 3 providers, they do surgeries, it's a cardiology specialist, then you may charge upward of $5,000-$6,000 a month. Again, it just all depends on the circumstance. But with flat rate pricing, you're getting paid a specific flat amount each and every month, regardless of if you do a lot or a little bit of work. The pros of that type of pricing is that you are pricing your services on value and not time. So in my previous example in the last video where I said that if you became more faster in doing your services, that you kind of got penalized when you did per hour. When it comes to flat rate, you're not getting penalized by moving faster. So you still get the same amount of money that you started out with, which would then allow you to bring on maybe another client, because instead of taking up 10 hours, you only take up 5, and now you can use that other 5 for another client and bring in another set of money. So with flat rate, you're not charging on your time, you're charging on your value. You don't actually need to sit there and calculate your time and make sure you show the client what your time is when you're charging by flat rate. You will be able to keep up with your time. You should be able to know how much time you're spending for a particular client, but you don't have to actually show them that. But then of course there are some cons to this as well. And one of the cons is that you might underprice, especially if you're new at this and you don't really know what to expect, and you don't know what to, you don't really know what you're doing. You might underprice your services, and if you're underpricing, then you're going to continue underpricing as long as the contract is in effect. And number two, how you figured out that you underpriced is that maybe the client is requesting more things than what you thought they initially would request. And so you're doing a lot more things than what you are charging them for, and that can be a con of flat rate pricing. But there are ways to get around that in the long run when you start to, figure out your footing and what you want to do and how things should go. Now, my story with flat rate pricing is that I started off with a low price. And I started off that way because I didn't know really, again and truly, what to charge, and I didn't feel comfortable telling the provider a certain money value, which has to do more with not the services that I provide, but with my confidence and what I thought I was valued and worth. So I spoke about that in one of my other videos, the one of them that I linked above. But I spoke about that before because depending on your mindset with money, it may be hard for you to tell a client, oh, my services are $2,500 a month. So that may keep you back in making more money. But what I have figured out when it comes to flat rate pricing is that I tend to do a shorter contract to the beginning. So instead of doing a year, 2 years, 3 years contract where I'm stuck in this pricing with a new provider, I tend to do shorter contracts, 3 months, 6 months, just to the beginning, so that we both can make sure that we are a good fit. Every provider is not a good fit for you, and you might not want to be with that provider for years and years to come. So if I find out earlier out that there's more that you're going to be wanting me to do, there's things that I didn't know was happening and I needed to deal with, after that 3 months, after that 6 months, we will reevaluate, and then I can change my prices, fix them to what they're supposed to be, and you're aware, or the provider is aware, that that's what's going to go on. And a good time to use flat rate pricing, again, is when you have kind of like a clear picture of what you're going to be doing for the provider. There's never going to be a time that you probably have it down to a T where, you think it's going to be A, B, C, and that's exactly what it's going to be. Providers sometimes ask for certain things that are outside of their contract, ask for, things that you didn't even put in the contract, so now you feel obligated to do it. So there are going to be those times, but when you have a pretty good idea of what the provider is going to need for you, then that's a good time to do flat rate. And also, if you want to have predictable income for yourself, then doing flat rate is very helpful, because then now you can know what you will bring in each and every month. So let's recap the 4 pricing strategies, which is percentage based, per hour, per claim, and flat rate pricing. Also remember that, like I said, you can mix and match them up. They don't have to be one or the other, and every client doesn't have to have just one pricing strategy. So make sure you like this video and comment below. Let me know which one you like the best, and I'll see you in my next video.